How did Starcruiser meet up to our expectations? Let's discuss. Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after from Fantasyland to Tatooine and everything in between. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
And we're talking Starcruiser again, specifically the expectations we had going into this and how it stacked up in real life. Now, just to start off the video, this is a completely spoiler-free video. We will be talking about different elements of Starcruiser, but we're not going to be spoiling any of the story elements or anything that we think you would not want to know before you go on your own journey if you're going to go.
Yeah.
Second disclaimer. We paid full price for this
experience.
So
this is like an honest review.
This is a completely honest review. We paid for our family of 4 to go. We did not split a cabin with any other parties.
And you say 4, but it was really 3 and then the baby.
Like 2.5, right? Yeah, so we paid for 2 adults, our child who was at a child rate, our 7-year-old, and then our daughter is under 3. So we didn't have to pay for her, but we paid for that whole room.
Yeah.
Versus some of the other parties that we went with that split the room 4 ways.
Yeah.
So a little less painful on the wallet, but we paid for our full cabin and didn't get any kind of discounts or perks or anything from that. So this is truly just from a fan to fans.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things, like, we paid for it was as soon as we heard about the Star Wars themed hotel.
Yep.
I told you, I want to go.
Yeah.
And so we started saving and, made sure that it was something that it was attainable when it was going to be opened.
Do you remember too? Everybody's like, the price is going to be $5,000 a night. And we're like, oh,
yeah, no, I mean,
it wasn't that bad. It's still a lot, but yeah, we were saving like it was going to be.
Because we started looking at like other Disney resorts, like the Grand Flo, Alani, like these really high priced hotels. Like, okay, they're going to probably
and
compare
cruises too.
Yeah. They're probably, at the very beginning.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, we were just kind of like, okay, what's the most expensive hotel that you could get at Disney? It's probably going to be priced around that.
Yeah.
And so that's where we kind of like, put our savings to. And then it goes into how Disney first announced the hotel and the parks. Because, at the same time, they announced that there was going to be
Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And that was exciting too, because they talked about that there's going to be characters walking around, droids, and what else? The hotel part of it was going to be together, right?
Yeah.
It was going to be, kind of a
like one big launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why it didn't happen at the same time. We were trying to like figure that out, but Galaxy's Edge opened in 2019. Right before things kind of went south worldwide. And given what we know now, having been on Starcruiser, that was an ambitious project, especially to do both of those at the same time. So there probably were just delays because there was so much that they pushed the envelope with this big time. So I think there was just delays to begin with. And then, a multi-year pandemic that we've been in also slowed things down. But having had that happen and the timing of Galaxy's Edge coming out first and then Starcruiser coming out a few years later, I don't necessarily think was a bad thing.
No, I think it worked in our favor because we knew the lay of the land.
Right.
And I think most people, even if you were Batuu West, you knew kind of where things were on Batuu East. Now, if they would have had 2 different Batuus, it would have been very confusing to people that hadn't been to East.
Yeah. But it also gets you familiar with the time frame that Starcruiser set in.
Story, yeah.
Yeah, because Galaxy's Edge and Starcruiser are both set in like that in between episodes 8 and 9 time frame, which is still a very new time frame for the Star Wars universe, right? Yeah. So I think it kind of got people used to that as well.
Well, and I think one of the things for hardcore fans, they were very particular that it wasn't the Star Wars that I knew. I think for people that enjoyed Star Wars, it Galaxy's Edge feels like Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
It has the grunginess to it, the weathered look, the big ships. It feels like Star Wars to you. You don't need, I want it to be within the original trilogy, or I want it to be prequel times. It's Star Wars, and it feels like Star Wars.
Yeah.
One of the things that kind of went to the wayside in Batuu was the characters, and we saw a couple droids out every once in a while.
I don't think we ever got R2
by himself
on East.
Well, they had that little Coke, not the Coke.
Like the
container,
the
but
droid,
the droid,
the droid carts. Yeah,
and
they did
had
have that.
like an R2 turning its head and stuff.
And then you have some characters that roam around, but very limited.
Yeah.
Like main characters.
Yeah.
Roaming around. Rey, Kylo, Stormtroopers, Chewie.
And I think one of the things was they kind of promoted dressing up, doing the costume thing. And I think it's a little bit harder for, attendees to get dressed up because you're going to a park. It's Florida and it's hot. So that's kind of their second thought. There was people dressing up.
More hardcore in the beginning.
Yeah. But later on it was just, you got your Disney, family shirts and stuff like that.
And it's also it's a small piece of Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
Like we're talking specifically about the one at Hollywood Studios, but both. Like it's just one land within a theme park. So if you were going to go ride the 2 rides and then go hang out in Toy Story Land for the rest of the day, you might feel out of place, right? Like wearing your Star Wars garb. So it's understandable because you're mixed in with people that maybe don't care that much about Star Wars.
Yeah. And I think with Starcruiser, it's it almost changed the game on dressing up.
Yeah.
Because you're coming from Starcruiser where most people are dressed up into the park, your own separate entrance. So
they plop you right in the middle.
Yeah, you're right in the middle of it. So you don't go to these other lands.
No.
So you feel like you are on Starcruiser visiting Batuu. The way they, Disney first intended, you come from the hotel to the park, and being dressed up doesn't feel off,
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like I actually, having done it now, and they literally plop you right in the center of Batuu. We didn't see anything from Toy Story Land. We didn't go anywhere near Muppet Vision area. Like all we saw was Batuu. And having gone and we're in costume, in that moment I was like, why haven't we always been in costume when we've come to Batuu? I kind of felt bad. I felt a little guilty. Like I've done a disservice to Batuu.
Yeah. Well, and it just added to the immersion of Starcruiser.
Yeah.
Because you're going on an excursion to this other land, and you're visiting there, that it just added to it. And I think that's where Disney kind of got us to be the extras. I know we had kind of mentioned it before.
Yeah.
But we're kind of now those extras of, dressing up and in costume and, roaming around. So it was kind of cool.
Because you feel cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, people would come up and talk to us, and they're like, "Oh, are you part of that Starcruiser thing?" You're like, "Yeah, I am." And you felt different. It was hard to describe. But some of the people on Starcruiser, they went all out with their costumes.
Yeah.
They looked like they were extras in a Star Wars movie or show. And like you said, I think that's exactly kind of what Disney was banking on, is
people are going to dress
if
up.
we can get the guests that are paying to be here to fill in this role of extras, why not?
Yeah.
Why not do it?
And the Batuu, I kind of go back to it. the experience going to Batu, you know, as a park goer is completely different than going as a Starcruiser guest.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's fun to go dressed up, but with Starcruiser, you've got like missions to do.
Right.
So you have like an agenda, you know, or your itinerary telling you to go to hit these certain spots. If that was their first time going to Batu, you would not be able to enjoy Batu the way everyone else gets to enjoy it, because you're going from one spot to the next, and it does not give you time to just like wander around and look at things, take pictures and stuff. You're very much like directed to go here.
You're busy.
Yeah, you're busy.
You're
Scanning,
real busy.
you know, doing things and stuff like that. So, you know, it's one of those things where it was nice that it kind of came out separate, because again, we'd already been there, so we didn't have to stop and smell the roses, you know, to use that analogy.
But I think that's one of the expectations that people have is like, well, I've been to Batu. Why should I go as part of Starcruiser? I want to just be on the ship the whole time. Because it's a different experience, a fully different experience going as part of Starcruiser. You do have missions that you need to do outside of like the Play Disney parks, the data pad that you get when you just regularly go.
Game.
Yeah, the normal game. You could still do that, but don't, because
you're on a time crunch.
You're on a time crunch. There was so much to do, especially for our situation with kids and whatnot. But it really it didn't feel like you were on a cruise excursion where you're just going and like enjoying the beach and the weather and taking it all in. You're like, I've got to go do this and this and this and this, and I got to ride these rides, and I got to go talk to this person. Like, it's a completely different.
Yeah, the story was, it went back to Starcruiser. Like, Starcruiser has a story. You're touching on Batu because of story elements, and you're going back.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing of, you're on Batu, let me go to Starcruiser to check something out. It's the opposite. Like, the feel of it was very different than you just visiting Batu on a normal park day.
Right. Yeah, so then you go back to Starcruiser, and a majority of the people that are there on Starcruiser are dressed up.
Yeah.
And it creates this whole vibe. It was very neat that you're all dressed up and you're like, everybody's into it.
Well, and I think that was one of the things, the difference between the Starcruiser and the park. At the park, you know, like you mentioned, some people don't want to dress up. Yeah. They just want to go to the parks, go ride the rides, and it takes that level of immersion out. Whereas people that are going to Starcruiser, they want to dress up. They want to play in this game. They want to play in this whole, you know, into this show. So they put more effort towards, let's have more costumes here, and allowing, you know, costumes to go there.
Right.
Because, I mean, we had, on our, you know, voyage, we had Mandalorians, you know, walking around.
Multiple Mandalorians.
Fully kitted up, man. You know, the only thing I think was they couldn't wear the helmets.
Yeah, you can't walk around wearing your helmet. It's like a safety thing. Like, you don't want to bump into somebody or something. Yeah. But you could put it on for pictures.
Yeah.
As long as you're stationary and, you know, you're good. Like, they didn't really.
And it was so cool just, you know, hanging out in Sublight Lounge, you know, me dressed as a scoundrel playing sabacc. And, you know, a Mandalorian at the bar, you know, having a drink.
They, like, walk in and order a drink, and you're just like.
Comes in. So I think it was the better setting for that immersion. Yeah. Like, it just felt a lot, you know, you didn't have a lot of Disney family shirts in there.
Agreed.
You know?
And from that sense, when you're setting this kind of scene, you're painting a picture, if you will, of like, you're a scoundrel in the Sublight Lounge and a stormtrooper walks in and there's a Mandalorian. Did it feel like the concept art to you?
I think it did. I think a lot of the pictures that we got initially, it was, you know, of like the room. You know, the room, it was almost like a copy.
Identical.
And now the gripe was like, oh, well, now it's too, you know, it'll be too small, or the bunk beds are going to be too small.
Right.
And I think we measured it, and
We brought a measuring tape,
but
which was not the first time we brought a measuring tape to measure beds at Disney.
but it would fit it's 6 foot.
It was 6
4,
foot 4.5 is
So,
what we measured.
But
But
it's larger than a twin size bed, I think. So I don't know if it's a full.
Well, width wise, it was just like probably a twin, but length wise, there were definitely like certain mattresses that were created for
it.
those bunks. But the room was not small.
No, I think one of the things that I wish they would have had was they had like a storage area. I wish it was like a closet to just put all the luggage.
Yeah, because it had a bunch of shelves, so you couldn't like throw a suitcase in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't need to unpack. Like, I'm not here long enough to really get comfortable.
Yeah.
And
I know some people like to do that at the normal resorts.
Like us.
But I think you don't have enough time here. So it would almost be, again, to just be able to put it in a closet so your room looks even more
clean and space. Like, you don't see a lot of clutter on the ships in Star Wars. I mean, I guess you do in some of them. But...
And then like the bunk beds, I want to mention they were hard. They were like a hard bed.
They're very firm.
Yeah, very firm.
Very firm.
But some people like firm beds.
Yeah. I don't, but I wish I had slept in one of them because they were so neat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more of just a preference. Like if you like really soft beds or you like more firm beds. So
right.
It wasn't something oh man, this is the most, it's memory foam,
It's like you're in a bunk in space, okay?
Yeah.
Just go with it. But yeah, the rooms looked identical to the concept art. The hallways,
I think they widened them from the pictures, because in the pictures they looked a little bit just more narrow, more space, like more ship-like. But I think they had to probably widen them
probably for like accessibility and safety and certain things. But
they're probably like code too.
They were still really cool.
Yeah.
Like the doors, what are those sliding doors? What are
like
those?
pocket doors?
Yeah, they're pocket doors.
Yeah.
Rather than just like like a regular door.
Well, I mean, there was like pocket doors everywhere. So
everywhere. It was so cool.
And I loved like you hit the button so it, slides open, gives you a little.
Yeah, that was our kids' favorite thing to do is you push the button to open the door. It was just, but it was very Star Wars.
I wanted to press the button.
I know, right? We never did. But the concept art, for the most part, they did a good job.
Yeah.
There's some things where we thought we were going to get cool, like holograms.
We kind of got them in the atrium, but the one I'm thinking of was in the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would have been cool to see it, but at the same time, now that I'm thinking of it, it might have obstructed views.
Yeah.
So I think they put it in a different spot because, again, you want to have like that real big open view. Like the hollow sabacc. I think it was a lot of the hollow stuff that we saw and that didn't come because they had it on the sabacc table, which the table's really cool because it's in there in the lounge. But yeah, the hollow part of it was kind of weird because you had to kind of get at the right angle to see it.
Was it actually hollow sabacc? Because I never actually sat down at the table to play. I just watched. I was always standing up when I was around the table.
So the table, it was like a kind of diamond-ish shape.
Yeah.
And it had four players. You had your own little screen where it would have the game, and you do your different buttons and whatnot. But on the table, it was like a glass, maybe magnifying glass type of thing, where it would magnify some kind of like image. So it was like a screen that was, and I'm going more into like the technical part of it,
right.
But you would see the cards in like on.
Was it kind of like a teleprompter?
Kind of like a teleprompter, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it kind of looked like, but you had to be at the perfect angle to see it. And
completely. I don't know why I never thought to sit down because they had little. I don't know how to describe it, but little like button screen looking things. It looked like So that wasn't it, or it projected up onto those.
It was on the actual glass.
Oh,
So like on the table. So you had to be sitting at the table and looking at the screen.
I don't know why
See,
I never
then
thought to do that.
I mean, I just looked at the screen that was in front of me.
Oh,
that's
you
what I
could do
think
that
was,
too.
yeah,
Oh,
because it has the same stuff.
gotcha.
So it almost just kind of defeated the purpose of the cards. So that was kind of, it didn't meet my expectations of the picture, the concept art. But like the lightsaber training, that was like another, we saw the concept, and then, DeMauro,
Josh,
doing his thing. That was, one of my favorite parts of doing it.
Which, going into it, what was your thinking on it? Because for me, I was like, I know I'm not going to look cool. Like, I know that up front. I don't know how to wield a lightsaber. I'm not a Jedi. I don't practice my lightsaber skills. But I thought it was going to be cool enough.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing is, I was excited to wield a lightsaber,
Yeah,
right?
well, who's not?
The second part of it was, and I'm thinking, like, how are they going to make things work? That's what I'm like. How are they going to make it feel, in magic? How am I going to feel the magic? And I'm already trying to break it down. Like, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And I think they did an incredible, like, watching DeMauro, you see someone that's not so coordinated swinging a lightsaber. Even in my activity of it, I felt really cool. I don't, you weren't there, so you can't, no one could say that it wasn't cool, but I saw other people very uncoordinated, trying to hit these lights.
You're like, Padawan.
But the thing is you're the cool thing about the lightsaber was you felt it. There was like haptic feedback.
I want to buy that lightsaber.
Yeah.
I know there was so much more than
the thing
just the
is,
lightsaber.
it's not just the light, because like the lightsaber is just like one of the.
It's like a controller to a video game.
No, what I mean, well, that's the thing. There's two parts of it. There's the lightsaber that's a nice lightsaber. You could find one online, right? You could find it was better than the Disney one.
Yeah.
But the part of it that it was it was part of the game, so it would have the feedback with nothing hitting it, nothing doing. You were hitting lasers.
Yeah.
And you would feel it.
No, dude, it was the Force.
So it was the Force.
It was the Force.
But that was what made it cool. Is like I felt it. I felt it hit these
and even those shields.
Yeah.
Because it was like a whole teamwork activity, and so the people behind you have shields, and you rotate and whatever. Even that, you felt it.
Yeah. So like you felt like you were.
Yeah.
I
was like, if I don't block this,
it's gonna hit
beam
me.
of light. Everybody behind me is gonna be obliterated.
But yeah, that was one of the things I was like, oh man, I want this specific lightsaber. And it wasn't the lightsaber that we...
Yeah, the lightsaber.
But just that one, like being able to not have to hit anybody, anything, I felt feedback from it. And that was so cool.
It was... That piece of it was cool. And I didn't go into the lightsaber training expecting, one, to look cool, or two, to learn how to wield a lightsaber and look cool, spinning one around in my house. But aside from kind of the game aspect that you're describing, there's a whole experience that's going on with the person that's teaching you the lightsaber training and the things that they're telling you, why you're even there doing it and what it means. That part of it, yes, wielding the lightsaber was super, super fun and cool. But that piece of it is what really sold me. And I was like, oh my God, I am in Star Wars. I am in Star Wars right now.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of these experiences, like, it's the experience. It's nothing that you could really quantify. It's just like, sitting in the sublight lounge, having troopers come in, having Mandalorian, like, it's the experience. Like you can't replicate that in a if you're trying to replicate that in a movie, like I could see it happening. But in a real world scenario, unless you're right now I got Celebration on my mind.
Oh
but
my God.
but that's the kind of situation you're never going to have that in the real world.
Even just going to Oga's Cantina and Galaxy's Edge, you can't have the experiences we had in the Sublight Lounge at Oga's Cantina.
No.
Because everybody's fully in there and they're just like fully bought in.
Yeah.
To being in Star Wars.
And I think that's where it felt like Star Wars, where you're just hanging out, you having characters walk around and being immersed in Star Wars stuff.
And that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Oh, we should talk about bridge training a little bit, because that was another thing that they showed both in concept art, and we touched on a little bit with like the table. But when they showed some video of the bridge training, everybody was immediately like, that's not Star Wars.
Well, yeah, I think it was like the consoles. It didn't look like Star Wars. It felt, Star Trek.
And it's not crisp. It looks like 80s retro, which, sorry to say, is when Star Wars started.
But I think the problem was the lighting. They lit it up when they were shooting in there.
Yeah.
They like turned the lights on and you saw everything.
Everything.
But when you're actually going and experiencing it, they have like a lot of mood lighting, all the different settings for, the bridge.
Yeah, not just the bridge.
Yeah.
Everywhere. The lighting was super cool everywhere. Like Sublight Lounge is real dark and moody. The bridge was dark.
Yeah.
Which I think played into, because you're not really looking at the consoles on the bridge. You're looking at that huge screen outside and where the ship is passing by.
Yeah. Like you see all the planets and stuff like that, which is, I think there was nowhere on Starcruiser that you couldn't take a good picture. I felt you could just, pull out your camera. The lighting was like fantastic wherever you went, and you could take a good picture.
Yeah. Except the engineering room. The engineering room was...
It was a bit dark in there.
It's a little grungy. It's a little darker. So have a better camera than I did, because my old iPhone did not do so. There was some grainy photos in there. But it was... I think the whole thing with the bridge training, everybody, the expectation was, that's not Star Wars. That looks terrible. It was truly like a lighting situation, and that was it.
Yeah.
When you're in the moment and you're doing your bridge training and the other stuff that you do on the bridge while you're there, you're like, oh man, I'm helping to steer this ship and do weapons and shields and this, whatever you're supposed to be doing. You felt like you were doing it.
Yeah. No, and it's really cool just to kind of, stand in these rooms and just like be amazed and looking at everything. I think that's one of the things that you get lost doing, sitting in sublight, sitting in the bridge.
Which, here's another expectation. I thought we would have more time to just sit and experience things.
Yeah, And like we talk about it, like, oh, you could just sit there, but it wasn't like you could just sit there. Like it was, you could take a moment, but you're moving along to some other story element.
Yeah.
I do wish it was maybe a day, or I wish it was longer. But
yeah,
if they could add, like they would have added one more day, it would have been.
I think it would be perfect.
Yeah,
because you could really sit there and enjoy. And that's the thing. Everything there was so beautiful. Like, the details of everything were so well done.
And I think the hard part is because it's so exclusive. Like, you can't just go back and say, I've already been. I just want to go and, like, look at little details. Yeah. I just want to go take more pictures.
Can I just go eat lunch, please?
Like, it's one of those, like, that's what makes it hard is you can't just go back and I just want to take, some quick pictures here and there.
Right. Yeah, and you can't do it all. Yeah. Like, literally, the way that the story is set up, you cannot do it all.
Yeah.
And
that was one of the expectations. We thought maybe we could do a couple different stories and kind of like, oh, let's tap onto this one. Let's hit into, see something on this. I think we were fortunate that we were able to get multiple elements.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was the intention of it.
And I think that would be one of my, it's not even a gripe, but it was just, I kind of felt lost in my story a little bit. And I think part of that too is because we had our 7-year-old with us and he was making his decisions and then we were making our decisions. So our stories kind of diverged a little bit. And so we had to get back to a point where it was like, you can't run off by yourself. We need to be with you.
Yeah.
So I think the expectation for the story element is you got to really follow along with what your story is, because it kind of gets lost if you start talking to the wrong people or you like stumble upon something. You might miss what your main story was over here.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of tricky too. So also just like taking a step back and just, okay, what have I done so far? Who am I supposed to be helping next? I think that was another one. But kind of playing into the story element, last big question, did it feel like Star Wars? We touched on it a bit. Did it feel like Star Wars?
It felt like Star Wars to me. I think the refreshing part of it was there was elements of Star Wars that I recognized and I felt comfortable with, but it was new. It was different. And I think that's the thing, that there's people that gripe about it, that, oh, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. But when you go and you experience it, it feels like Star Wars. I didn't not feel like Star Wars, but it felt different and new. And I think that was the exciting part of it, was it wasn't just Star Wars that we've all seen. It was new and different.
Yeah, and it's a new adventure.
Yeah. So I think that was a cool part of it. That's what made it exciting, was it was new.
Yeah.
Like it felt old. It felt familiar, but it was different.
It was familiar. I think that's the best way to describe it, is it felt familiar without feeling like, well, we know we got to blow up the Death Star by the end of this voyage, or the second Death Star, or the Star Destroyer. You know, it wasn't a story that we knew what the ending was going to be necessarily. We got to go in and play, and we're like, oh my gosh, you can hear Star Wars music. You can see some familiar Star Wars characters. You hear the planets and the all different things that pull you in and make you know that it's Star Wars. But at the same time, you're like, let's go play. Let's try something new. And it was refreshing. Yeah. It was really refreshing because it wasn't an old Star Wars story. You really felt like this is your Star Wars story.
Exactly.
And it was perfection in that sense, in that it felt personal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one last thing to it is it feels personal, but it's a shared experience.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We have been excited about this for the longest time. And we fully expected to just go as our little family and go experience this. We were fortunate enough that we made friends with people that were going on the same voyage with us, and kind of within the Facebook groups for our voyage, and just meeting people along the way that were going to be there at the same time. We went into this meeting people in real life that we had never met before in person.
Yeah.
Getting to experience something so immersive with them and something so Star Wars is something we all loved so much, I think also added to how impactful this experience was.
Well, I definitely think the group experience, or just experiencing it with other people that were there to
like a like-minded.
Like-minded. Like they just had it. They were wanting to enjoy this experience. It was incredible because, there was parts of our group that, we got to connect with and have fun with, but there was a lot of people, which is not my norm to talk to random people, but you're just, again, hanging out, and you see somebody and you start talking to them, talking about costume or whatever, and, appreciate the hard work that they did, and they appreciate, your costume. So you get to know them, and then again, you're seeing them, running back and forth. There's not that many
people on the ship.
So, you're like, hey, what's going on? Or they change costumes or something like that. Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. Like walking into the Sublight Lounge, and you maybe at least a little bit knew everybody in there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, is the Sublight Lounge like my Cheers? Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, no, it was, again, it was super fun. And that was like one of those expectations, we thought we would go and kind of experience it. We knew it was probably going to be higher end, and so we probably wouldn't go again. And as the trip progressed for us, we were kind of like, oh, we should come again. We should come again. We talking to our group like, oh, we got to come again. And each little interaction that we had, we're like, no, we definitely have to come back. And okay, when's the next trip? And all right, Sarah, go ahead and start, looking up dates or trying to figure out, coordinate when is the best time to go back again.
It went from oh man, it would be so cool to do this again, and then it just like progressively got to the point where it was like, no, when we're like, this is happening, let's just pick a date.
Well, and we talked about connecting with people on our voyage. There's people that have gone on different voyages that are saying, hey, let's form another group for a different voyage.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is like, people are excited for it. And again, it's not one of those things I think you could do every other weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can, good for you, but
it's emotionally draining too to do it.
Well, I think it's because you get very very involved in the story.
Like, you give a lot of yourself to it. But yeah, it feels very similar to when we went to Disney for the first time. What was it, 5 years ago? And we're like, this was cool, we should do it again sometime. To then by the end of the trip, we were like, so annual passes, how does that work? It feels like that.
Yeah.
It's like, are they going to do annual passes for Starcruiser?
Yeah.
Can we get a punch card, maybe? A punch it card?
It definitely, exceeded my expectations. There definitely is like things that I could gripe about, but it wasn't enough to ruin my time.
No.
Ruin my experience. Like, again, we had talked about the biggest gripe I probably had was having to push a stroller around, and that's nothing to do with
Starcruiser. That was fully on us. And I would say my biggest gripe was just like, there wasn't enough time.
Yeah. Well, that's enough. Yeah, I wish maybe there was another day, but
like, I still had so much food to eat, and I still had so many drinks to drink, and I wanted a nap in the bunk bed. Like, my entire, it's not even a gripe, is like, my wish is that I had more time on the ship.
Yeah. And I think that's, the sentiment of most people that we talk to is.
Everyone that I have talked to that has been on this, like you said, from our voyage, ones that have been before, ones that are there like right now. Like, I have somebody that's there right now, a friend of mine, that's like, they already booked a second voyage before they went on their first one. But it was so much fun. And so, since we paid for our whole cabin, was it worth it to you?
It was worth it,
Obviously, right? We're already like, we're going back.
Yeah. it was worth it for me.
When we can, we're going back. Yeah, it's so hard to put into words, and we're doing our best.
Yeah.
That's why we've got this podcast.
You say that, it's so funny, because when you ask somebody, like, how was it? I feel like every time it's kind of like the person stops and is almost like wandering, through their mind of like, how do I describe what I experienced? How do I say it in so few words? And
exactly.
It's one of those hard things. Like, you can't just say it like, oh, it was this. It's the Star Wars hotel, and it's not that.
And maybe that's why people say like, it's a Star Wars hotel. It's like, how long do you have? How deep do you want me to go into this? Yeah. Or do you just want me, is it like one of those like, oh, how's it going? You're like, oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Or it's like, how's it going? Like, let me tell you.
Yeah. No, it's, definitely. And the crazy thing is it's almost with all the Star Wars that we're getting now, it's just like reigniting that spark of Star Wars.
Did you say ignite the spark?
But it's so nice that, again, we have the shows, we have, Obi-Wan coming out.
Yep.
Like, there's so much Star Wars that it's.
You feel a little guilty? Like, this is so much Star Wars.
It's one, like, you get afraid that something's bad's gonna happen, right?
They're gonna take all the Star Wars away. But you can't with Starcruiser and Galaxy's Edge. I mean, I guess you could, but that's evergreen. We've got it forever.
Yeah. So I don't know. Again, I'm happy. I'm happy right now. So
I'm happy too. I'm happy reminiscing about it. I just wish we were back, but we're not. We're here. But I think that's a good point to wrap it. So if you have watched this and enjoyed listening along to Starcruiser, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, or if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, consider following or subscribing, whatever it is on that podcast app you listen to, because they're all slightly different.
Princess and Scoundrel is part of the Thank the Maker Network. So if you want more Star Wars stuff, go listen to Adam, Ryan, and Nick talk about their adventures in Star Wars shows and whatnot. And go check out Armor Party. Mike Forster hosts real cool podcast about Star Wars costumes. Got me to get my first TK kit.
Thanks, Mike.
So go check him out. And you can find new episodes of Princess and Scoundrel anywhere you listen to podcasts or watch us on YouTube.
Until next time.